92.53 DF Memphis with Dave Woloshin. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11. It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Everybody, Dave Woloshin, Jay Ham is our producer today, and football has begun. Glenn Rogers, by the way, will join us here in about 5 minutes, and we will talk high school football. There were scrimmages today. Christian Brothers, Germantown, that'll be a good one. Whitehaven, MUS, that will be a good one.
I may pull up to that one. That one at Whitehaven?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Either way, MUS isn't that far.
Yeah, I might pull up either way.
Yeah. That'll be a lot of fun. What happened in the scrimmages last week? I know last night, Briarcrest and Mace, that is a dandy. So Glenn Rogers will fill us in on that. Pro football began in earnest last night. And did you watch the game at all?
I watched maybe a series of it. I was caught up in WNBA madness, Dave. It's just what it was.
You're just a basketball dude.
I'm a basketball. Well, I'm a sports guy, but when we were in full swing, when we get in the full regular season football, the basketball will go to the back burner.
Well, W, since you were watching, I take it you were watching the Fever game?
Yes.
So two courtside fans got escorted out.
Yeah.
What do we know what they said?
They didn't specify what was said. It was just inappropriate. They also said that they weren't ejected officially. They elected to leave on their own.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever.
Well, they did actually take out a woman, and then she came back, and that's when they escorted the others. So she must have said, "Hey, it wasn't me. It was those two guys. This is what they said." And it was banter with a player. I don't know. Well, first off, I don't understand why you would buy a ticket, sit courtside. You spend it. I'm assuming. I mean, it's not like the $1,000 you got to pay or more for the NBA, but I'm assuming it's a pretty hefty price, right? To sit there, to what, heckle or denigrate the players? I mean, I don't understand that. Now I understand there was banter with the I don't even know the name of the player. But there was some banter, and then she sort of went to the officials and said, "This enough is enough." I don't know what takes you over the line. I don't understand why you feel the need to degrade other players. I don't mind a little needle. Maybe you get in their head a little bit because you're so close and they can hear, but I don't understand why you would take it across the line, especially if you're a reasonable, wealthy kind of person to sit in those seats. That kind of stuff absolutely makes no sense at all to me. But that's what happened in the WNBA. In the meantime, I was getting to the football game where the Panthers scored on the last play of the game to beat the Cardinals. Now, I think it's Haynes King that scored that touchdown. The truth is, we all wanted to see what Carson Beck was going to do. And you know what? Arizona may have found themselves a quarterback, the kid from Miami.
Yeah. And I like that because you put the young guys out there on that grand stage. Yeah, a lot of guys are going to be out there just trying to make the team, just trying to get their reps in, get the best possible shine that they could get. And they got a great showcase from what it looked like. 33-30, they put some offense up. They entertained.
Fun game, and I got to tell you something. I mean, the NBC had their A team in. They had Tarico and Chris Collinsworth, and wow, Tarico, on the Today Show this morning, I think it was Craig Melvin, who's a big sports fan. Craig Melvin goes, "The Tarico call, you thought it was the Super Bowl." First exhibition game of the year. Yeah, well, that's the great thing about Mike Tirico. He brings it every time.
Every time.
I was asked, what would I want to be remembered for? And I just said that I gave it my all every game. That I had passion and enjoyed it, and I prepped for it, and that's exactly what.
Hey, Dave,
Tarico
you do that
does
for us on the local level each and every year, so we appreciate you.
I am looking forward to this year, and we will talk with Jonah Dillon about Fan Fest tomorrow. Greg Gaston, who was just in here, he'll be. I don't think he's roaming the sidelines for this one. So he'll be sitting next to me, and Jarvis Greer will be sitting next to me, and we'll take a look at this, and we'll talk with Jonah about this in our last segment, and that is, first off, we don't know anything about this football team, but we're going to see. And Charles has basically said, I wish we were, he said, I wish we weren't having this Fan Fest now. This really was supposed to be in the spring because the way I coach, it's all a process from the first practice of camp, and today I think is practice 8, all the way to the week of prep for UNLV, which is August 29th. And he said people can walk away from this Fan Fest tomorrow, which I believe is 3 to 5, and they're going to go, this guy didn't know how to coach. This is terrible. But it's all a part of the process, so we're giving you forewarning on that. You get to see the stadium and all the new tricks. I don't know if the ribbon that is supposed to be the newest, greatest thing. Speaking of ribbons, you know who invented this dual ribbon thing?
Who?
The company?
Who did that?
That company is called Daktronic, which is in the news.
Yeah.
Do you know why Daktronic is in the news?
All for Kawhi Leonard, and supposedly they gave him an endorsement deal that was supposed to help circumvent the cap.
Correct. Well, that's somebody, I guess it's Pablo Torres. Whatever. He's not with ESPN anymore?
No, he's not. I don't think he is.
Did he get cut in those things?
I don't think he got cut in this round. Maybe in the previous round.
Maybe he just got big enough to go on his own to make more money.
That too.
But he basically said, the quote was from somebody inside Daktronic, 1,000% the deal was done to circumvent the cap. I don't know what Adam Silver does. I don't know what happens, because I asked Pete Pranica this the other day. If this investigation goes into the middle of this season, who does Kawhi Leonard play for in the first part of the season? And that's the first thing I'm going to ask Andy Schiffman, our agent in Chicago, who comes your way middle segment. So we've got Glenn Rogers, we've got Andy Schiffman, then we've got Jonah Dillon. So we've got a very, very busy show today. That is for sure. It's all brought to you in part by the good folks at Miramichi. Miramichi, what a great experience. If you want to learn to play the game, they got the best practice facilities around. I mean, they really do, including how to learn how to get out of a sand trap. Not many places have a practice area with a sand trap. They got it there. They got everything. They got the best clubhouse with great food and great service and TVs all over the place. They got the deck that is up above 9 and 18 with the best view of Shelby County. You see this golf course, gorgeous, and that is fully stocked, that place, when it's open. You want beauty? The back nine's got a waterfall. It's got a stream meandering throughout, and you got tough competition. You can go back 7,400 yards, or you can play 5,000 or less if you move up to the women's tees. It's true competition. It's true beauty. It's the total golf experience. That's what I call Miramichi in Woodstock, not in Millington, 25 minutes from my house in East Memphis. We go down the road a bit, and Glenn Rogers Jr. from Christian Brothers High School. Now, as always, he's been doing this for double-digit years with us.
20 plus.
20 plus? Wow, 20 plus.
That's right.
You say that, you just make me older and older and older.
We still young, my friend.
There you go. That's my sense of it all. Glenn joins us to talk high school football and more every single Friday. We began last week. We're only 2 weeks away from real games. We got scrimmages. I know you guys are up against Germantown. I believe Whitehaven's going to take on MUS today. Last night it was Briarcrest and Mace. Those are two teams that had great success last year. Briarcrest considered one of the better teams again this year. I think Mace is too. Tell me a little bit about what happened in that scrimmage. Do you know? Good morning.
Good morning, and happy Easy B Friday to all you and all our listeners, Dave. And like you said, there was two big time programs out here, Briarcrest with Phil Massey, and of course Mace with our good friend and former Tiger, former Fairleigh Bulldog, Cedric Miller. Scrimmage went well. Two teams going at it. Both teams got a lot of firepower. You know, I think Cedric would be the first to tell you he's got a young offense, but got a lot of good, promising young guys. But Dave, I'm gonna tell you something, and I heard this from the horse's mouth from Coach Massey from Briarcrest. Jamarcus Pittman from Mace, who's an Ole Miss commitment, is unblockable. Like, he wreaked havoc all night against Briarcrest in the backfield, just very disruptive, and you know, but it was a great scrimmage on both sides of the ball. You know, a lot of things got accomplished, but Phil Massey said Pittman stood out like a sore thumb.
So he's one of the better players this
in
season
our area,
to
in
watch.
the state. And I mean, like I say, he's an Ole Miss commit, so that tells you a lot.
So how many high school players this year are Power 4, and in particular SEC commits?
Well, Dave, you got Pittman, you got the old lineman from Southwind, you got a running back from Southwind that's got an Auburn offer. You got another kid that's got an Auburn offer. You got, you know, then you got the kid from Lausanne, the kid from Collierville. We got a bunch of Power 4.
Is it the kid at Lausanne that's going to Purdue that Barry Odom got?
No, you got the kid from Lausanne is committed to Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, somebody's going
Lawrence
to Purdue.
Brick.
I know that.
Yeah, Lawrence Brick. He's committed to Missouri. But I'm going to tell you, Dave, we got a lot of Power 4 guys in this area. This is a real good year for high school football. That's why I said last week, the fans this is going to be one of the more exciting years in football in a while, because there's so many good players on different rosters. There's so many good players on different rosters, and then, you know, to me, the quality coaching is very good in our area as well. You got some young coaches, but you got a lot of guys that've been doing it for a while. You got some renewed energy.
Tell me about these scrimmages today. I know of two. You guys, Christian Brothers, plays Germantown. Where is that? What time do you play? Can the public come see it?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We're going at 6:30 at Germantown High School. Weather should be nice. You know, Germantown should have a nice crowd. We're going to travel well. And then you got MUS that travels over to Whitehaven tonight. You know, Stan Collins' debut as a you know, getting back into the fold.
Debut.
And then you also got Memphis versus
First off, let's stop right there. How old is Stan Collins now? Stan Collins, I believe, is older than me.
His Stan is 75 plus, I think.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what
sure
I was going to say. I'm 73.
Yeah,
I got to think
plus.
Stan is at least 3-4 years older than me. I would say Stan's 77. I do find it amazing. You know, Stan was one of the first guys that taught all of us the value of double dipping, because he left his alma mater, Whitehaven, to go down to Mississippi because he'd already gotten the pension, and he was going to double dip and become the coach. And I can't remember where in Mississippi, but he did that successfully for a number of years.
Well, he was the assistant principal down in Mississippi, Dave. And, you know, Stan originally is from Florida. He's been at Whitehaven so long. He's an alum. They made him a unofficial alum because he's been there so long.
Well,
but Stan, he went down to Mississippi and double dipped as an assistant principal down there. Then he took over as a principal at the high school.
Well, he was the coach of Rodney Salisbury, who was there forever.
He coached Salisbury. He coached Salisbury and a bunch of other guys. You know, he coached a lot of guys. You know, great coach, great pillar for the community.
But
like you said,
at the age of 75 to 77, we'll just guess there, what made Stan come back to replace Salisbury at this point? Why did Whitehaven make that decision to do that?
Well, I think, you know, they can't get that guy that they want right now, Gene Robinson. And so I think Stan came back to help the program kind of stay afloat so they can get Gene on board. So great gesture on his part. You know, he loves the school, loves the community. So I think he's a placeholder until Gene can come into the fold and take over.
So Gene,
kudos to him, and he's got a lot of good young staff around him. You know, Stan's got a great young staff they formulated around him to kind of keep the ship afloat till Gene gets on board.
This is the first time I've ever heard of a coach in waiting in high school, if that plays out. So Gene Robinson is doing nothing this fall?
I think I want to say Gene's maybe he's either the head coach at Havenview, which is a big feeder school at Whitehaven. I think he's doing something in that capacity at a middle school.
So he went down a level to be a coach in waiting, and Stan came in to be the hero for a year. I love this story more and more as I hear it. What will happen tonight with MU? Of course, they don't really have a game, but if this was week 0, who'd win that game?
Well, I would have to go Whitehaven, Dave. Whitehaven, a lot of firepower. Quarterback is phenomenal. Can make all the throws. Athletic. Got a couple of offers. Got a Memphis offer. They got a DB that's committed to the Tigers. Whitehaven's got speed and athleticism. And MUS doesn't have that. It's going to be a tough year for MUS. I hate to say it, but the truth is the truth. When you lose 4 of your top players, and you're talking about juniors that left MUS, it's going to be a tough out for them most of the year, because like I told you last week, this league we're in is unforgiving. And so, you get that nod to Whitehaven. They just got a lot of firepower, a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism. And then our game tonight beat Germantown. Coach Sutton, his debut at Germantown at a new school, and so we're going to get battle tested. We don't game plan for these scrimmages. A lot of times scrimmages, let the kids go play. Let's see who can block, tackle, and execute. And so that's how the kind of Coach McDaniel, our coach, and our staff look at scrimmages. Good time to evaluate. Let's see who can help.
The league that has Collierville, Germantown, I think Whitehaven's in there, Southwind.
Yeah, Whitehaven,
Southwind is in
Bartlett,
that.
Southwind.
Where would that particular league, competitive-wise, rate amongst the state?
Oh, I think it's right up there, Dave. I think it's, I would firmly believe that league is right up underneath our league. USA Today rated our league 3 years ago as the 5th toughest division in the nation. And I would think that 6A league with all those teams in this area, and then the teams when you go to Nashville and Chattanooga, that league has got to be the next league right up under us. A lot of good competition. We already know the local competition here. You got 5, 6 teams here that slugging it out just to get a top seed, and even the top seed ain't promised because you went through that gauntlet with those other teams. And so, that 6A league to me is right up underneath our league as far as the next best league in the state of Tennessee.
Wow. I can't wait to watch the competition on a weekly basis there. There'll be a great game every week, no doubt about it. All right, we talked about Nashville and East Tennessee and all the facilities and how they were ahead of Memphis. But if we were just talking about stadiums, and I'm not talking practice facilities now. I'm talking stadiums and atmosphere in the Memphis area, could include public and private. What do you think are the best stadiums game day that includes facility and atmosphere throughout the metro area? Kind of give me the top 5, 6, 7 of them.
I'm gonna start with us, Dave. Christian Brothers. We our student section got voted the top in the country 2 years ago. It's when you see the game day atmosphere over here in Walnut Grove and CBHS, it reminds you of a college type tailgate. There's tents everywhere. The fans are everywhere. They're rabid. The band is playing. It's, the Brothers Walk is a tradition. It's just, last year was my first time seeing it, like being in it, seeing it from a coach's perspective. And I'll take that back. 2 years ago in 2024, the year I didn't coach, I came over and saw it and was in came up to the tailgate area. It was the first time I've ever came to a tailgate area because I wasn't coaching, in 20-something years.
Right.
And I was amazed, like, just seeing it. I'm like, wow. Then last year seeing it, being here on campus, seeing everybody come set up. And then afterwards, our fans stick around after the game is over. They stick around another hour. So I would put us up there as number one. I think the game day atmosphere in Melrose is still exciting.
Now, I would put that over. I'll be honest with you. Melrose, when they're good, that's better than Christian Brothers because you've got generations of guys who come out.
You do, Dave.
I'm talking about 60, 70-year-old guys that got their leather jackets still
Letterman
on.
jackets on,
They're standing on Park Avenue. I got to go with Melrose over that. I got to tell you some others. I'm going to chip in here.
And then
I'm going to tell you because you don't know these places. You might have played Olive Branch, but Olive Branch in their heyday, that atmosphere was incredible. I'm going to give you Marion or West Memphis. When those teams are good, people come from miles and pack the place. Those two places I think were kind of special when I was doing the high school game of the week. I'm trying to think of Bartlett.
See,
How about we were 2 years ago? We were at Bartlett and
Bartlett,
they were playing MUS.
Bartlett was great.
Bartlett's got a heck of an atmosphere when they're good.
Yeah. But see, that's the key, Dave. When they're good, see, one thing I tell you about Christian brothers, when we're good or not good. Last year we had a mediocre season, 5-5. But I'm gonna tell you something, Dave. This place is packed, whether they're good or bad. Then that's why I get a nod to Christian brothers. Melrose is good as rocking, but this place is rocking no matter what.
How about Germantown? Germantown's pretty rocking every time, whether they're good or bad too, or used to be in the Ernest Chisholm days.
It used to be, Dave. I don't think the atmosphere at Germantown is quite as good as it is. Now, you go over to Houston on a game day, it's rocking over there. I've been there on a game day, big game when they play Collierville. It's rocking over there in Houston. James Thomas has a big thing going over there in Houston. Is rocking over there on game day.
Now, I'd like to see that same stuff happen like it does at Melrose or Bartlett or Collierville. Collierville's another place that's pretty cool. I'd like to see that at Halley Stadium and the Crump Stadium, but you just don't get that. And those facilities are, I think they put the new turf in. I think they're decent.
Southwind's getting new turf in. Crump's got turf.
Yeah.
Melrose, and so. Southwind's getting new turf now, but like you said, and then, Crump is such a, there's so many teams that play there, so it's hard to get a big-time game day atmosphere because I know it's Central's home stadium, but, so many home stadiums for other teams too as well. I'll tell you another game day atmosphere, Dave, that's good. You go out to Mumford when they rocking at Eminem, the Eminem Mumford Militant game.
Yeah.
Mumford is rocking out there because they closed the whole town down to go watch a game.
I've heard that. I've never seen that, but I would like to.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these Fridays I'll meander over there for sure. Glenn, as always, we appreciate it. I know we're a couple of weeks away. Next week we'll talk a little bit about week 0, and maybe we'll go over the top coaches in the area.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we'll talk about the top coaches. I think we got some great coaches in there. Some guys that have been around a long time, a couple of state champion coaches, and then we got some young guys coming up through the ranks. So good to talk about those guys and give them some credit, them and their staff.
He's our guy on the preps on high
school
football.
Go Tigers, go and go brothers.
Thank you much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, that's Glenn Rogers Jr. As we sit here in the Family Leisure Studios, a reminder, the Ultimate Pool Party is still in effect, at least for a little while, because you know what? Right around the corner, they're going to have a Labor Day party. Oh, yeah. A Labor Day, so you know that. But right now, I'd cash in. I would absolutely go, and I would check out the above-ground pools at under $4,000, the in-ground pools, state-of-the-art new technology under $50,000, and all in-stock patio furniture is absolutely priced to move. You get a free umbrella and a base if you buy a new patio set, and if you mention us, that's $200 off the purchase of a pool or a spa. Just head on over to Family Leisure and make sure you tell them we sent you. And this portion of the show brought to you by Southern Security. They could be your financial partner. You'll trust them. They can do things because they're not a bank. They're a credit union. They're not for profit. They can do things, I promise you, that banks cannot do. They've got the best rates because they can do things banks can't do. They got the newest technology. Look at this new branch they got in Collierville, the latest, the greatest of everything. And always, any of those 7 locations, you get the best service. To join, it's simple. Talk to a human at 901-452-7900 or go to southernsecurity.org. You can join that way. Southern Security, your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. We take a break. We're headed to Chicago. Our agent from Priority Sports is Andy Schiffman, and he comes your way next.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roof Services. I wanted to take a minute and discuss advertising with you. There are so many websites that list the best service provider in your area. Even the BBB has an accredited list. You know the one thing they all have in common? A company like mine has to pay to get on that list. So that begs the question, can those lists be trusted? You know what can be trusted? History. We've been around for almost 30 years providing customers with the best service and the best products that we possibly can. So if you need a roof, siding, or gutters, give us a call. We'll come talk to you and let you decide for yourself whether or not we know what we're talking about. Fiveash Roof Services. Best products, best warranties, and in many cases, the best price. We're fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
If you're spending time outside, it's important to know the potential risks of skin cancer. Non-melanoma skin cancers, or NMSCs, including basal cell carcinoma and cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma, are common in the U.S. and can become advanced and harder to treat if left undetected. Our sponsor, Regeneron, is raising awareness about advanced NMSCs. Learn more and take the pledge to see a dermatologist annually at letsgetrealaboutSkinCancer.com.
The PGA Tour is back in the 901, August 12th through 16th at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Watch the PGA Tour's top players while enjoying free food and non-alcoholic beverages with a Grounds Plus ticket. Tickets available at FedExChampionship.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
I would love to catch up on the NBA, and there's no better insider than our agent from Priority Sports in Chicago. That would be Andy Schiffman. So the news today that's topping at least the NBA websites is that Kawhi Leonard apparently might have had another endorsement deal with a thing called Daktronics that was devised to send him millions and circumvent the salary cap. Well, here's my question for you. This investigation is ongoing, and it was hinted that they may not have this settled and figured out before the season begins. In fact, it could go into 2027. If that is the case, who does Kawhi Leonard play for? L.A. or Toronto? Is there suspension? What will Adam Silver, do you think, do in all of this? Good morning.
Morning, Dave. Well, first off, I think that there's a high likelihood that Kawhi could just be suspended outright, and he would not start the season playing for anybody. As you remember, in July, there was that trade between the Clippers and Toronto to send Kawhi back to Toronto. That's been on hold. I don't see that going through until this investigation concludes and they figure out the status of Kawhi's contract. Because I'd be shocked if they allow Kawhi to continue on his contract, even with a new team, if potentially there's circumvention that is going on. And to your point, this story now alleges that Kawhi had a quote-unquote secret third-party deal with Daktronics worth $28 million, and the NBA has interviewed members of the Clippers staff, obviously anonymously, people with this company, and the owner of the company is in jail for 14 years, defrauding people, and it seems like a lot of people now are coming forward saying, yeah, the purpose of this deal was to circumvent the salary cap, although Clippers owner Steve Ballmer alleges he had nothing to do with it. He made the introduction to Kawhi and his people at Daktronics, and the rest was left up to them to negotiate. He had nothing to do with it. I don't firmly believe that. We have a lot of good players. We've never done a deal where there's a $28 million changing hands between a third party company and a player, right? So I think there was some sort of collusion with the Clippers involved. But yeah, I would not be shocked to see Kawhi sidelined until they get this figured out. I mean, if he is going to play, I don't know. I mean, does he start with the Clippers and they just put the trade on hold? There's a lot left up in the air, but I would not be shocked to see him sitting out until this concludes.
Let me get your gut feel, because there's no way you could possibly for certain know, like me. We can guess. Is there a chance that Kawhi Leonard's people and Steve Ballmer, the bottom line comes down to him. He's the owner and he's paying it out. So
You're accountable.
he had to know. He's accountable. But is there a case that could be made that Kawhi Leonard was just his agent and these guys, they're making deals and he just knows that money's coming in, but he doesn't know the specifics, and that he's an innocent bystander in all this?
Look, I think he might say that, and that's the stance that he may take. I don't see that happening. I don't. Kawhi is an NBA veteran. He's obviously done national deals. He's one of the elite level players in the NBA. $28 million is a massive amount of money. Now, if it was some sort of like $500,000 shoe deal from a Nike or Adidas or New Balance, where they're just giving him cash because he hit some incentive bonuses, yeah, maybe that's more believable. But for a $28 million deal, and again, I think this was probably discussed at the time that Kawhi negotiated his current contract as well with the Clippers. So that might be the stance he and his people take. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it.
Is this one of the tougher decisions that in his tenure, which is a pretty long tenure now, Adam Silver?
Sure.
Is this one of the tougher decisions he's got to make with a guy who's a superstar, a big city, another country, but I mean the biggest market in Canada, Toronto,
right,
really wants him back. He won a title there. And he is one of the bigger names in the league, not quite as big as he might have been a few years ago. But is this one of Adam's toughest decisions?
Well, I think it is for a multitude of reasons, Dave, because it affects so many things, right? It affects, obviously, the integrity of the game and the integrity of a negotiation between an agent / player and team. It affects the integrity and reputation of the Clippers owner, plus Kawhi. It affects and impacts the Clippers' season, obviously. And if they are without Kawhi, what do they do with that spot? How is his $50+ million salary handled? It affects the longevity of what the Raptors were hoping to accomplish. And so I think if you're Adam Silver, if it drags on, so be it, as long as you can uncover as much accurate information as possible. I'm sure 1,000% both the Clippers and the Raptors, as well as Kawhi and his agent, they're going to want an expedited resolution prior to the season. We all would, obviously. But I think if you're Adam Silver, because there's so much at stake, Dave, you have to get it right. And the only way to get it right is to get every little bit of accurate information. It's really like he's judge and jury here, Adam Silver. And so you can't make any mistake and jump to any conclusion. And it's going to be tough. To your point, it could be this he said, she said, where Kawhi pleads ignorance and just says, look, I had nothing to do with it. Why am I punished? I don't believe that, but how do you prove that? Mm-hmm. And that's a difficult task.
Well, I know there's got to be accountability on Ballmer and the Clippers because, and Pablo Torres is the guy that broke all this stuff.
Yep.
And Pablo Torres had, I guess, several witnesses who basically said, sources who basically said 1,000% this was to circumvent the cap. And so I know you don't want to offend the richest guy who's your owner in the league, but, you know, if he's blatantly breaking the rules, there's got to be punishment, right?
For sure. And what do these employees or these, I don't necessarily know if I want to call them whistleblowers or not, what do they have to gain by saying this? Mm-hmm. And so absolutely. I think with Ballmer, look, I think worst case that he gets is some sort of suspension, fine. I don't see him being forced to sell the team or anything.
What has he got, $30 billion? A fine's not going to hurt him.
No, for sure, but it'll be a hefty fine. But like, what is he on probation in some way, shape, or form? They lose draft picks. You've seen that happen in the past. It'll be very interesting to see if it comes down to it. If the league does want to punish Ballmer and the Clippers, what does that punishment look like? What does that entail? I'm very intrigued to see what happens there.
Yeah, me too. I'm intrigued. on a couple of fronts, which I will get to, about one of your star players. That is the status of Zach Edey. There were a couple of stories written in regards to him today about what fans want to see, and one of the top things would be to see Zach Edey dunking over Wemby in a big-time game. And the other was about Coors, which I'll get into in a second. Where are we with Zach Edey? What's the progress of the second operation? And do you think this guy could play 65 to 70 games this year?
Look, I'm hopeful he can. It seems like he's going to be out for maybe a good amount, potentially, of training camp. But again, what matters most for Zach and for the Grizzlies is that he's healthy for the majority of the NBA season. And so if they have to hold him out of camp, even if he's out there on the court come, say, mid to late November, I think that's a win given where we're at with his injury history and the stress reaction. So that's where it stands today. Obviously, they're going to continue to reevaluate. It seems like he's not yet fully going out there able to play today, but we're at August 7th. The NBA season's over 2 months away. So is there a world where he could play 60-plus games? Yes, but I really think the Grizzlies and Zach and Isolo and that whole staff, they're going to be very cautious. They're going to be very smart about how they ramp Zach up and how they ration out his minutes and his role. You might see, look, it's the reason they went out and got Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons in that trade. Insurance up front in the front court, right?
Right.
So I'm hopeful that he could play a lot more than 60 games, but we'll see.
My question, when was that second surgery? It was like in the middle of last year. How long does it take to recover from that? If he can't go to training camp?
I believe it was early March. Yeah. Just again, I don't know. I haven't talked to Zach in several months. I saw him at Brandon's memorial service a couple of months ago. Seemed very positive there. I guess it's such a unique case because of who he is and the size we're talking about. And a 6'5" shooting guard recovering from a stress reaction is much different than a 7'3" center in Zach. So,
but we're talking 8 months.
We'll see what happens.
October's 8 months. That's a long.
Yeah.
Seems to me a long time, but I don't know. And again, we're working with a different animal here. A guy who's 7'6" or whatever the heck he is, and he's not a light 7'6" either. He's a hefty one. Maybe he's lost some weight. I don't know if that would help or not. But well, that's wild. The other thing is, let's just say he's ready to go and he can play 70 games this year, and he's terrific. So the Memphis Grizzlies have worked around and they've come up with a new core that includes Edey, Boozer, and Coward. That core with, let's throw in Ty Jerome being an effective guy because it looks like he can be. I don't know who emerges as G.G. Jackson going to be a big-time guy. Isaiah Stewart's a nice backup. Say they're 9 or 10 deep, but because I think they're deep. But is that core, Edey, Boozer, Coward, a good enough core to at first be a playoff team and then add a piece or two and be a contending team? What do you think?
Well, I don't yet say they're going and they have the potential to be a contending team. No. Could they be a playoff team? Yes. And I think you'll see growth and evolution from that quote-unquote core throughout the season. I think the biggest thing is those guys have to play together. You didn't have a lot of overlap between Zach and Cedric Coward last season. Cedric Coward looked really good in Summer League. Sam Boozer looked like a top 3 pick that he should be. He did what he should be doing in Summer League. So you expect a lot of the offense to run through him. And I think that there will be growing pains, just like there is for any new rotation, any new player in the NBA. But again, as we get into mid-season, the hope would be, again, we always talk about it, health. If everyone stays as healthy as possible, the hope would be that they've kind of hit a stride and they figured out how to play together and maximize that. So absolutely, I think they could be a playoff team. I do. I think they, again, you cannot overlook the productivity of Jeremy Grant. Yes, he's older, but he still gives you 20 points a game, and he's a really high-level shooter. So I think he's part of that core. And this season, I would put Jeremy Grant as part of that core. You got our guy, Quentin Post, who's an elite-level perimeter big-time passer as well. You mentioned Ty Jerome. So, again, I do think they have the makings of a playoff team, but if you're talking about a contending team to emerge as a top 4 team in the West, compete for a Western Conference Finals. They're not anywhere close to that, in my opinion. Now, they could be in the next few years. I still think they're going to be active in the trade market. I still see, look, they have to trim down the roster. We'll see what happens with some of the likes of an A.J. Johnson. We represent Chris Murray. Will he start the season in a Grizzlies uniform? We'll see.
Will he be bought out? That might be a better
exactly.
question.
I mean, D'Angelo Russell is another question mark there. Obviously, Jalen Wells has played well overall, so we'll see what happens with him. Not saying he's going to be moved, but I think he could be. Hopefully, you'll see him take another good step going into his third year. Cam Spencer's our client. He's done very well. I've got Richie Saunders, who you probably won't see for the better part of the season.
Will he go? Wait. Since you mentioned him, will he go back to Kentucky? Apparently, there's an opportunity.
BYU.
Well, no. He knew Kentucky coach Mark Pope at BYU. What I've heard,
he never played at Kentucky.
No, I understand that. He played for Mark Pope at BYU. Mark Pope is now at Kentucky. From what I've heard, Pope has made an offer, if he gets a 5th year, that he would pay him a lot more money than the Grizzlies contract to go back to Kentucky for a year. The Grizzlies would retain his rights next year. So, and you know, a guy probably couldn't play till December anyway. What's? I'm glad you brought Richie Saunders up. What's the deal?
You can hear it from the horse's mouth. I'm shutting that down right now, man. No chance. A, we have not heard from Mark Pope. We have not heard anything from Kentucky and Mark Pope. B, the rule and this recent federal ruling from the Colorado court regarding NCAA eligibility, you're going to see a slew of players gain an extra year. One of the wrinkles in this rule is you have to have played 4 years of college basketball in the last 5 seasons and be 23 years of age or younger by the start of this next season. Richie Saunders is 24. He'll be 25 in September. So he is not eligible. I actually even spoke with him yesterday and said, if there is a world where this rule gets upended, the age-based element is completely thrown out. And no matter how old you are, you can gain this extra year of eligibility. Would that change your mind? He said, no, I want to be a Grizzly. I'm looking forward to continuing working with the staff and being able to play this season. Probably won't be in 2026. So I'm telling you right now, anyone that asks you, Ricky Saunders is staying a member of the Grizzlies. He's not going back to college.
You heard it from Schiffman, and this man knows. We thank you. You brought it today, Schiffman. We love you. Thank you.
Always welcome.
Talk to you next Friday. That's Andy Schiffman, our agent in Chicago. He's brought to you by Shell Dunn. You know, if you're going to be a great team, you got to have a big man, right?
It's the only way to roll.
Grizz got ED.
Yeah.
Hopefully. You know what? The real estate agents.
It's got to be my man Sheldon, right?
It's Sheldon. You've got that on the money. He's the big guy. Or he can be the point guard. He can do whatever you want. You know why? He's got the strategy to sell your house, to get it to the closing table quicker than anybody else. He'll tell you, talk to 2 or 3 real estate agents. Don't rely on your neighbor or your cousin that are in the business. But you can talk to him. Make sure you talk to Sheldon, because he's got that strategic marketing program that's worked for 40 years. Doesn't matter the market. He sold houses in good markets, bad markets, terrible markets. And the market now has got a lot of inventory. In order to get to the sweet spot, to get to that closing table quickly enough, you got to have a guy who knows. Sheldon knows. Call him, 483-0546, or get a hold of him at MemphisRelocate.com. That's right. Relocate is in the name. MemphisRelocate.com or 483-0546. We take a break. We're going downtown, and Jonah Dillon standing by. We'll talk about Fan Fest and a whole lot more. That comes your way in a minute.
Not only can you listen to your favorite shows on Sports 56, you can also watch video of the shows live on Twitter and YouTube. Watch and listen every day at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by Fifth Generation Incorporated, Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment? That's a lie. Most timeshares can be bought online for $1. To find out what your timeshare is worth and to cancel it, call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit kit free with all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley for your free exit info guide. 800-885-3333. That's 800-885-3333.
The answer to the question, where should we go for drinks, is always Bell Tavern. Celebrating something? Bell Tavern. Bell Tavern, Memphis's perfect downtown neighborhood bar, is the destination for celebration. What are you and your friends going to do when somebody has a special occasion? Go to some chain bar and suffer all that racket? No. You're going to say those 2 magic words that sets everything in motion. Bell Tavern. There's no reason to even have a conversation about it. Just say Bell Tavern and see everyone smile.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
We headed downtown. Tiger football beat writer, also does Grizzlies, does it all. That would be Jonah Dillon. He joins us now. I'm not sure who Sun Tzu is. Is he a warrior? Is he a former king? Is he a philosopher? But he was quoted by Charles Huff earlier yesterday about his philosophy about building a football team. I think it was about war, but who the heck is Sun Tzu?
He's a former general. Got to do your history reading here. Charles Huff clearly has. We've heard Charles Huff a couple times. I think I was the first press conference before spring practice. He started quoting Teddy Roosevelt. So we've heard him bring out some of these quotes and talk about philosophies on stuff. And this was one, essentially I'd asked him a question about how much during training camp do you think about or talk about UNLV? Because that's the first game. Not only is it the first game, it's a really important one. And it's against a real caliber opponent versus just playing an FCS team. And he was basically saying, we got to focus on ourselves, right? And so I think the quote was, it was know yourself before you know your opponent. Right. And so that was kind of the point of it. And he had that ready to go. That's how Charles Huff is. He's always ready with an answer like that at a press conference.
Huh. I was there for the Teddy Roosevelt thing, but I can't remember exactly what the reference was about. But clearly he's a heck of an orator. There's no doubting Charles Huff in that regard.
Yeah, it was the Teddy Roosevelt one was comparisons to Thief of Joy. That was the it was in answer to a question about the quarterback competition, I believe. Yeah. So let's it was we don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about getting better. Obviously, in the spring that makes a lot of sense, right? And then as you get to the season, it starts to heat up a little bit more.
And he was pretty up front about tomorrow, the Fan Fest, which is 3 to 5 at the new Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. We'll get a chance to, I hope, see some of the new treats that we have there, like the new video board, the one that's smaller in the south end zone where there was never a board except for just the score, the ribbon, which is supposed to be the newest, latest, greatest thing. I hope all those tricks and treats are ready for us tomorrow. But he said the product won't be. He came up and said, I really wanted this thing to be in the spring. Remember, it got weathered out, so they didn't do it. And this is sort of their answer now. But he was basically saying, I'm a process guy. I got to take it step by step. I got to take it practice by practice. I expect things to happen each practice for improvement. I don't expect to skip a step. And folks are going to watch this thing tomorrow and think, I don't know how to coach.
Yeah, who knows what we're actually going to see. I mean, the reality is this is a practice, and they only get so many practices before the season starts, so you can't afford to waste one, right? And so this will be something. I don't know the portion that fans are allowed there, what it'll actually look like. Like you said, I'm interested to see the stadium because we were in there, it was about a month ago, and they made obviously a ton of progress on the renovation, supposed to be completed before the home opener against Arkansas State on September 5th. But and even Ed Scott has talked about it, they're going to be right up against that deadline. And so this will be another chance to actually get a look in there and see what kind of progress they've made, and probably the last time for fans to be in there until they're at that game against Arkansas State. And so I think that's something for sure. And, just the atmosphere of, it's kind of the thing that gets you start thinking about college football. You're at the stadium, you're watching the players, you're seeing these new numbers and trying to figure out who guys are. That's when it starts to come back. And then suddenly, if you're a Memphis fan, you got to do everything quick because they're playing week 0. So everyone else has got another week to think about this stuff. Memphis is going to be out there and into game week pretty soon.
I was amazed at something else he said yesterday, which leads to how physical this guy is with his camps and maybe even practices. Remember, he's a Saban disciple. So he said last night that they, at this particular practice, what was that, number 8 maybe, that they played 4 games worth of snaps at like 85 snaps per game. So that's like, what, 340 snaps they went through yesterday? And I was listening to Brett Norsworthy on Sports Time with Brian and Stats last night, and he was talking about how Saban really believes in physical practices during the week. Like, even on Wednesdays before a game in November, he will have an outright physical war of a practice. So I wonder, because he's a Saban disciple, if this is the kind of physicality you're going to see all year long.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something he's talked about, and his former players have talked about. His practices are really tough, and certainly that matters. Again, it's the type of thing, like a lot of this stuff, we're at this point in the offseason now where nothing really matters in terms of what you're saying, right? We're going to get to the games, and then that's going to be the story. Because this is one of those things that goes both ways. If they win, you say, wow, they were really prepared. They won a lot of games.
Yeah.
If they lose, people are going to say, well, they were injured because they went too hard in practice. And it can work against you. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when Biff Poggi was at Charlotte, he showed up the week of their first game, and he said, about half of our starters are not going to play on Saturday because we went too hard in practice and they're all injured. And so it can work against you, obviously, and it's something that people will seize on if things go bad. But again, it's all just stuff right now. It's the off season. People are saying things. The only question is how it all plays out when the games actually start.
Well, and let's be honest too, and this was pointed out by Brad. I mean, Alabama was so deep at every position. You could afford to lose a guy or two if it was a rough practice on a Wednesday before a game. And Charles has basically said, I feel pretty good about our 1s, and in some position rooms I feel pretty good about our 2s, but I'm not so sure after that. So I don't know if he'll have that same philosophy until he builds up that kind of depth at Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you can't really have depth anywhere at this day and age of college football because there's so many opportunities when it comes to money for guys that they don't want to be sitting around. And that's more so at a place like Memphis. Even I think you hear some coaches of power conference teams say that, especially at Memphis. You're never going to have depth. And that's why you see some of these teams, like if we do a preseason power ranking of the group of 6 teams, one of those teams in the top 10 is going to lose their quarterback and their season is going to be totally tanked because of it, because they just don't have depth at key positions. That's just how it works, or other key positions as well. And so you got to stay healthy. That's a huge thing. I think obviously, look, when it comes to the practice stuff, we don't actually see what's happening there. So I don't know what a hard practice is versus an easy practice. And that's why I don't think we need, you don't need to read into it too much, because ultimately, like I said, if they come out during the game and they're way more physical than everyone else and they're playing harder in the fourth quarter and all that stuff, you can say, wow, it looks like they're on a different level. But until we see that, it doesn't mean anything.
Since you mentioned rankings polls, the coaches poll came out this week. I was a bit surprised. Memphis was 43rd, had 9 votes or 9 points. They were 3rd out of the group of 6, behind only Boise and UNLV, 2 teams they will play. They were ahead of everybody in the American by a pretty good margin, because Navy was next with 3. Were you surprised they were at the tops of the American and where they were placed at 43rd?
A little bit, but I think also the thing is when we look at these polls, and obviously we talk about, okay, they're essentially number 43 because of how many votes they got, but the people aren't actually ranking those teams. And so if you look at how most people, they're just saying, okay, I'll put Memphis at number 25 or something, right? Mm-hmm. And that's different than saying I'm going to rank the top 5 group of 6 teams.
Right.
And I think that's where the disconnect is, because I do think a lot of people, if you ask them to pick one team in the American, they wouldn't pick Memphis. But when you're just talking to people who are kind of doing a poll, and like the coaches poll, we don't really know who's filling that out.
Right.
A lot of SIDs are filling those out,
Sure.
if we're being honest.
Absolutely.
And so in general, you don't want to read too much into it, but I do think that shows it. What it does show you is that Memphis on a national scale gets a lot of respect. And that's been the case for a while. I mean, I think, again, the perception of Memphis football is higher nationally a lot of times than it is in the city, in the sense that, look, people think that this program, even you look at like the stuff people talk about Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, he won a lot of games at Memphis. They were really successful. And then in Memphis, we have a different conversation about expectations and stuff. And so, yeah, I wasn't super surprised. I think that's a good positive for Memphis. Obviously, look, if Memphis wins the first 3 games of the season and beats those 2 teams that are ahead of them, then Memphis is going to be ranked at that point, right? And so it's all in front of them.
Right. You also made an interesting point, just BSing with me the other day. I casually mentioned Phil Steele had Memphis like 5 or 6 in the American preseason poll, and yet like 8 or 9 guys on the defensive side of the ball, 3 on the first team, were first, second, third, or 4th team. And your point is Athlon, Phil Steele, they put guys on teams for their own selfish reasons.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily selfish. I just, like, those teams come out in the preseason, and it's good. It's sort of just positive. It's just press for everybody, basically, for the people that are putting them out, for the teams to say, look, we have this many guys on this team, and you should take this seriously. What I was saying is basically there were a couple guys on Memphis, especially on Memphis' defense. If you made a first team or even an all-conference team, or even an all-group of 6 team, guys like Jamon Tapp would be on it. And we should talk about those guys with that kind of level of respect. When we have 4th team all-conference preseason, it really like dilutes the whole idea of what it means to be on one of those teams, I think. And so I think it's hard, if you're a fan, it's hard to parse through some of this stuff because you're seeing there's 10 guys or 8 guys or whatever on these teams, but every team has a ton of guys on them because there's 4 preseason all-conference teams. And then there's the other thing with what coaches will tell you and conference commissioners will tell you, which is preseason projection stuff for teams that are made up of entirely new players. It's really difficult. And there's not a lot of, like, you can't really look at all that and know how it's going to work. A lot of guys on those teams won't even end up playing because there's position battles going on and stuff like that, especially if you're talking about a 4th team group of 6 conference teams. And so, yeah, I think it's important as we go into the season to say, look, there are some guys on this Memphis team who are really talented. There's guys from Southern Miss who are on the defense, Jamon Tapp, Mike Montgomery, Ian Foster. Those are all power conference caliber players, and everyone needs to understand that. It doesn't mean anything in terms of how the defense is going to come together. But I think when you look at all the other guys, it definitely dilutes it a little bit when you look at the whole product.
Well, the other point that you made beautifully was that if you're a 4th team guy on Phil Steele's team, that's in the game notes, right? So people read those things and they let you know, and they want to buy Phil Steele. They want to buy Athlon because those guys are on their thing. They want to read about it. So it helps to sell their magazines. Jonah, as always, I appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow at FanFest.
Sounds good. I'll see you there.
You got it. That's our guy from the Commercial Appeal on Tiger Football. That is Jonah Dillon. He's brought to you by Landers Cadillac of Memphis. That's the top. When you say, what is the standard? You say Cadillac. When you say, what is the standard of dealerships? You say Landers. You're getting the best of the best. And the new Cadillacs are always there. The best deals are always there. They're always going to pay top dollar for your trade. You can save even more if you get the Landers Easy Pass. Just go to Landers Easy Pass at CadillacofMemphis.com, and then you'll find out about all kinds of exceptional offers. They're there. The best new Cadillacs are around at the best place to go. And remember, if it doesn't say Landers, you paid too much. Johnny Radio's right around the corner. I'll see you on Monday, or maybe I'll see you tomorrow at Fan